hiring a vet, obviously, I mean, who wouldn't want to have one or both of those men working for you? And let me just suggest to you that there are lots of veterans out there who are coming out of the military who have training, who have discipline, who have knowledge, who have grown up, who are worthy of your consideration because they have put in their time, and it says a multitude about them. There's an Institute for Veterans and Families, military veterans at Syracuse University, emphasizing how employers can turn veteran talent into a competitive advantage in the area of acquisition, deployment, and development. And this series of 4 papers, the second has just been released. It's entitled Revisiting the Business Case for Hiring a Veteran, a strategy for cultivating competitive advantage. It discusses how to best quantify a veteran employment program, but it also outlines a broad framework for companies that want to fully leverage veteran talent. It's in simple language, it's a good idea to hire a veteran if you can. It's a good idea to consider a vet and see how you do with your business because you got somebody in there. You can also go on the website and we'll have more about that. But let me first introduce my 2 guests here. One is Nicolas Armstrong. I should introduce him officially as a doctor, Nicolas, Ph.D. He's Senior Director for Research and Policy at the Institute for Veterans and Military Service or Families. And he has collaborated, if you will, with Mike Kelley, who is Assistant Vice President, Military Advocacy at USAA. Gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us today. Nice to have you on the program.
Great to be here. Thanks for the opportunity.
Absolutely. Talk to us, if you would, now about what this whole business is in terms of why you're doing. I know there's workforce readiness research about the workforce readiness briefs. I've gone on your line, and I'm very excited about all the things that are happening about the Institute that are in place. But what's new here in terms of what you want potential employers to know?
Mike, you want me to go first? You want to take a shot?
Yeah, Nick, why don't you take that one? I think that'd be good.
Yeah, sure. So we're really excited to work with our partners, USA, and collaborate on this effort. You know, a lot of work has gone into, at least in the private sector, in terms of making commitments to hire veterans. And, you know, from a big picture perspective, the unemployment rate for veterans has improved over the last 5 years. But really, you know, we're trying to help employers, you know, move the conversation to not just hiring of veterans, but how can we help veterans make that transition into career paths that they're going to excel in, going to, you know, retain that sense of purpose that they had when in the military. And this is sort of the purpose behind this new series that we've launched with USAA, is to really start to develop some tools that employers can make good use of to get veterans on board and put them to their first best use in their company.
Yeah, and Mike, I don't understand. How is it possible that any company out there that's trying to do well, to make a profit, to be successful, how could they not think about hiring a veteran, or at least using those who've already proven their worthiness to this country?
Well, that's quite surprising, but it is true. As Nick mentioned, we have seen a lot of companies step up to the plate and begin to recognize that. And USA is very committed to helping other companies see the value of veterans. And I think you mentioned it in your intro about the value they bring. So this series of papers that we're doing in partnership with IVMF really helps us to demonstrate to companies the bottom line. Okay, what kind of impact do these veterans and military spouses provide to your bottom line? There is a return on that investment because they're rare, valuable, and a very differentiating resource. So we want to change that perception. Mm-hmm. We want to drive even more awareness around the value of veterans and what they can bring to a company. So that's specifically why we're partnering with IVMF to bring these workforce readiness series to the forefront.
Nicolas, do we know how many veterans are out there that are potential employees? Do we have any idea on the numbers?
We do. So we know roughly between what the Defense Department and what VA says that about 200,000 or so service members transition out of the military each year. So it's a sizable number there to take advantage of and to leverage that talent.
And I know the total here, I think they say somewhere in the vicinity of, over the past 5 years, about 1 million vets out there who are either working or looking for a job who are available.
Yep.
It just seems to me that as an employer, I've got a record with these guys who come out with an honorable discharge, that they have gotten to work on time, that they are able and have learned a skill or skills, and that is somebody that I can count on. Isn't that apparent?
It is apparent, but with fewer and fewer, I think less than 1% served today. You get fewer folks inside the civilian workforce that have military family connections, and so we just need to do a little bit better job educating other employers and other hiring managers in terms of what that value proposition that veterans bring to the workforce.
Well, and once I received the information, especially at this particular time, about what's going on here, it occurred to me that, we've got to talk about this, because if you're not thinking about at least finding a vet or hiring a vet, we ought to make it come across your mind. We're going to find out, how do you find these people that are available? What should be the route that you take as an employer or as a veteran if you're interested in jobs? You're listening to Being Financially Fit with Paul Berry, your home, your family, and your finances. We'll be right back with more. Stay with us. It's Memorial Day. It's time to celebrate that, and celebrate it in a way of remembrance. It's okay to have a great time. I'd be the first one to say, make sure you enjoy this day. But I would also encourage you to remember why we're celebrating. Too many of us forget that. Think about somebody. And by the way, we're talking a lot of military here, but tell me who doesn't have a son, a daughter, husband, wife, somebody that's serving in the military right now. I'll bet you don't have to look far to make sure that you can scratch somebody in your family that's serving in the military or who has completed service and who may be out looking for a job. And if that's the case, that's where my guests come in. Nicolas Armstrong, Senior Director for Research and Policy at IVMF, and Mike Kelley, Assistant Vice President, Military Advocacy at USAA. They care about the employment of our veterans and getting them back into productive and associated work with what they've learned to do. But the question is how do you find them? If I'm an employer, how do I find the connect here? Or if I'm a vet, how do I find employer or employee? So, Nick, Mike, jump off on that and tell me what's the best way to reach out to folks.
I'd love to tackle that one, because there are so many resources, not just for the veterans themselves, but for employers as well. And really, IVMF has many resources on their website to help, but there is a national coalition of companies under the U.S. Chamber of Commerce Foundation called Hiring Our Heroes, and it serves both veterans and employers. So if you are looking for job opportunities, that's a great place to go. It's just hiringourheroes.org, and there is lots of resources out there for both the veteran and the spouses to find jobs. But more importantly, there are resources out there for employers to connect with those veterans and spouses in face-to-face environments, online environments, and just through search opportunities. So if you are an employer and you don't know how to get connected with that potential workforce, Hiring Our Heroes is a great place to start.
Okay, that's a website, hiringourheroes.com. Is that what we're talking about?
.org.
.org. I'm sorry. Thank you, .org. And by the way, folks, Nicolas is he represents the Institute for Veterans and Military Families, IVMF, at Syracuse University. So you don't have to lose sight of. If you can't remember, you can certainly call or contact Syracuse and get in touch with the IVMF, and they can make sure that you don't get lost in the process of trying to find where you should be. What is the process, if there is a process, of documenting these military members who are coming out or who have just come out? Is there any such agency like that where an employer and say, okay, let me look and see who got out, where are they located, and what were they trained for? Is there any such agency like that?
That's a tough one.
Okay, I don't know, and I don't mean to. I'm just wondering. Don't you think? Doesn't that make sense? Wouldn't it make sense to have a, and it could be voluntary. But you say, okay, look, these guys maybe they're military police, or maybe they are cybersecurity, or maybe they are so on. Doesn't it make sense for the defense, Department of Defense, maybe, to have some place where a potential employer could go and say, okay, I'm looking for, man, this age, this sex, this location, this training, and I could tap into that. But we don't have such an agency as you know it now.
Well, the Veterans Affairs does have the Veterans Employment Center, where companies can list themselves as potential employers, but where veterans can also submit their resumes and make themselves available to those employers. So since 9/11, companies have not been able to get data on military members separating from the military for security purposes. So it's important that veterans take advantage of these resources like the VA offers and get their resumes out there so they can be found, because companies like USAA can't tap into that DoD database anymore to identify those veterans when they separate. They have to self-identify.
Okay, and this particular paper, the second, as I read it, in the series of 4 papers, what is new in this that we should know about or that we should look for?
Yeah, I'll jump in on that. So this paper addresses the return on investment point that Mike made in the last segment about how companies are realizing a value in return for their veteran hiring initiative. And so one of the things we wanted to do is, because companies are so different, is to be able to point out the fact that that return on investment is going to be different for companies. But what's most important is how that company realizes that value is related to how they position veterans in their companies themselves, how they actually put them to their first best use. Mm-hmm. So not just making the hire, but really getting to know and understand what the veteran's bringing to the workplace, and being able to tap in and leverage that talent to really sort of maximize and give the company their competitive advantage.
I guess.
Yeah, and I would add that this isn't just the right thing to do. It makes good business sense, and really, what I love about this study is it encourages the formalization of a strategy. So you've got to have a plan. You've got to be purposeful, because companies, before they make this investment in veterans, want to make sure that it's a sound investment. So this really lays out the value of not just acquiring these veterans, but deploying them into the right jobs, developing them, coaching them. So this really is a wonderful roadmap for employers to build a successful program.
Absolutely it is, and I'm very pleased to have Nicolas Armstrong and Mike Kelley with us to talk about the program. When we come back, we'll be even more specific about what you need to do to make sure that you get tapped into the right place. Being Financially Fit with Paul Berry, that's the name of this show. We'll be right back with more. You're listening to Being Financially Fit with Paul Berry, in your home, your family, and your finances, here on the Radio America Network. Thank you so much for joining us. My thanks to guest Nicolas Armstrong, Senior Director for Research and Policy at IVMF, and Mike Kelley, Assistant Vice President, Military Advocacy at USAA. On this, as we celebrate Memorial Day, we remind all of you for the 4th or 5th time today, because it is important to say, why do we celebrate? What is the purpose? And obviously it is to honor those who have served this country, those who are still alive, who are veterans, those who are in the military right now somewhere in the world, and those who unfortunately have lost their lives in years past because of their service. We thank you for your service, and we honor you in terms of our memory. And we are also very pleased to have these gentlemen on the show to talk about employment. Who could you better employ than a veteran, somebody who has served their country, who has learned certain disciplines, certain skills, certain values, and who are now out there to look for you or to have you look for them in terms of finding a job that's going to be meaningful and productive in this country. Let's talk to Nicolas about the reach both ways. Nicolas, go ahead.
Sure. I just wanted to touch back on the comment from the previous section on return on investment and how one of the big takeaways from this most recent paper is how companies measure the value of their hiring initiatives. And one of the things that we wanted to really emphasize in the paper is that it's not a one-size-fits-all proposition. Companies are different, industries are different. There's no one benchmark or value that any one company or that could work for any a range or set of different companies. So the idea is that the companies need to figure that out for themselves, and that's really based rooted in the whole purpose and value that they see in standing up a hiring initiative in the first place.
Yeah, and if I could add to that, for us at USAA, we have long recognized the significance of military talent in creating an engaged and effective workforce for us. I mean, we serve a military community, so who better to serve our members than those who have actually worn the uniform or lived that lifestyle? So for us, it's important to make sure from a cultural perspective that our employees understand our military members. So it makes great sense for us. But again, going back to what Nick said, it depends on the company. So what do they want to accomplish? That is variable, but what is the same across that audience is that there is tremendous talent and a return on the investment when you invest in these veteran employees.
Boy, is that ever true. And I just to be sure now, so everybody understands, Nicolas, where do people need to go here to either visit one of the? I know this is a series of 4 papers, but where can they see the last paper and this paper? Where do you have to go in order to have a chance to look at this again? Would you please?
Sure. If you go to our website is vets.syr.edu. So that's vets.syr.edu. And if you go into our research section there, we have topics on a range of different topics, but this is right under our employment section.
And as I looked at the documentation that was available, the workforce readiness research, about that and everything, I was very impressed and very informed about, how to reach out and how to start making those initial contacts and finding out what it is that I really need to know. As here at the radio station for my show, looking for some vets to come in and work with me here. So this is it's just important to have that information. Gentlemen, I would ask you now, from a standpoint of Memorial Day, what does it mean to you, Nicolas?
Memorial Day weekend.
Yes.
It's really about honoring those who we've served with and are no longer with us today, honoring their memory. Very important to me as I've, as an Army veteran myself.
Yeah.
It's very important.
I appreciate it. Mike, go ahead.
Yeah, for me, it's drawing attention to the service and sacrifice of those who have gone before us. So I'm a 25-year Air Force veteran. I recently lost my dad just at the end of 2015, and he served in the Army Air Corps. So that's my personal connection, of course, and I have other family members, uncles that served in the military. But I think broadly, it's just good for America to remember the people who have served and sacrificed so that they can enjoy the freedoms that they have today.
Well said, Clint. Well said to you both, Michael and Nicolas. Thank you so much. This is Being Financially Fit with Paul Berry. Tune in next week. We'll be right here the same place, same time, and enjoy Memorial Day. God bless you.